2023 was kind of a wild year for my business. Sometimes it's hard to realize what you've accomplished until you zoom out and look back on a year. 2023 was a year of renewal for Smeeney Made Wild, and I'm so grateful for what it brought me. It wasn't so much a year of growth as it was a year of depth, and I had a lot of new opportunities, made some big changes in my business, and even got to meet a lot of my maker friends in person. Thank you so much for being part of this journey, and I can't wait to see what 2024 brings. I'm Shireen, and I have a small knitwear business called Smeeney Made Wild. I make sustainably handmade knitwear, mostly beanies, and then I also sell my knitting patterns, stickers, and some other adventure goods and stuff like that. I live in a ski town in Colorado and love getting outside, so I also love to share my adventures with you too. I haven't done like a maker bestie chat in a while, so I just wanted to sit down and share some of the things that worked, things that didn't work, and even break down some of the numbers with you. So let's talk a little bit about what worked. I've basically been doing my business for about 6 years now, and 4 of those have been full-time, and it's crazy that this is my full-time job. My business is basically from September through April, and that's kind of my busy season for Smeeney Made Wild. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I live in a ski town, so the holiday season and the holiday rush is crazy and definitely the best time of year for my business, but I still stay really busy from January through April. I feel really grateful that that is the nature of my business. But as far as year planning, I usually don't do my planning until April because I like to go through an entire selling season before I sit down and reflect. So at the beginning of the year, I hired a brand designer to help me do an entirely new logo suite, brand colors, brand fonts, and then a couple of other assets as well. And before that, all of my stuff was DIY. I initially had a friend design my logo when my business was called Smeeney Beanie Knits, and then I did all of the other branding myself. So I felt like it was time to level up in a way, and so I really wanted to hire a professional, and I'd been following Abby for a while. She is a graphic designer and her business is called Abby Layton Studio, and I just really loved her art, and she's an illustrator, so I really wanted a custom made logo. And after being in business for 6 years, I kind of have a better grasp, I think, now on who I am as a business, what I want from my business, and so really the rebrand was just meeting me where I was at now, and it really just felt so good to like feel like myself more in the business. Like, I didn't make a huge change. Like, my old business name was Smeeney Beanie Knits, and now it's Smeeney Made Wild, but it just made me feel more free, less boxed in, and I have a lot of goals, and I want this to be a really sustainable, long-term business for me, so I just felt like branching out from that old name was what I needed to do. And it's funny because Smeeney Beanie Knits was not even to do with beanies. My nickname is Smeeney Beanie, and I just happen to sell beanies. I just felt more free changing it to Smeeney Made Wild. And I've discovered that I really just love sharing my outdoor adventures as well and all of that stuff, so it just felt like a better way to be able to do that. So the rebrand was great, and I'm really happy with how everything came out, but it also led to some of the things that didn't work, which I'll talk about in a minute. So the next thing that was really great for the business was my new studio space, and I did a whole series of videos about getting into my new studio and creating a separate workspace for myself. It's hard to believe, but for this whole time that I've been running my business, I've been just working from the couch essentially, and had my desk on the coffee table and just worked from there. And I got to the point where I was like, I need to have more separation. And I had my yarn room before, but it was mostly just kind of a storage space for all of my materials and packaging supplies, and I'd be packaging things on the floor and all of that. So back in October, I think it was, I got a whole new shelving system. I moved around a bunch of stuff. I got myself a desk, I got a packaging table, and I basically work from this room. Like, I use it as my office. So when I come into my office, it's my work day, and when I leave my office, it's not my work day. So that has been really wonderful. I cannot stress enough the benefit of having this separation. And I know it's really obvious, but it's just something I didn't do before because I was like, it's fine, it's working, like no big deal. And I feel like I've just been more excited to come into work and be more creative. And now with my YouTube, it's like easier to create videos and things like that. So that was really, really great. The next thing that worked that I was really excited about was markets. In the 6 years that I've been running my business, I have really only done small pop-ups where I had one table at like a brewery or something. I do one a year, but very, very small, like not super trafficked events. This year, I actually got invited to do a holiday market at our local ski resort, and I had my own 10 by 10 tent, and it was so exciting and also really stressful because I'd never done it before. So I actually bought furniture for it. I bought a bunch of new like signage and things like that, and it ended up being really successful. I definitely think I could improve. Obviously, it was just my first one, but I now have a relationship with the resort, so that was really cool. And my most recent videos talk about that experience. I'm really hoping that going into this year, I can actually plan ahead better and do more markets or do the market better. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so things that didn't work so well. I did not prep enough in the off season this year. A lot of that was because I did the rebrand, so I spent a lot of my summer working on things for that. I also went on a lot of trips and took a lot of time off, which is really great, but I might have taken a little bit too much time because going into the holiday season, I was super stressed and I just felt like I couldn't take a break, which normally I have a pretty good work-life balance, but this year I just did not do it very well. I also didn't really have enough for my local shops, so I just kept selling out, which is a great problem to have, but normally I have a little bit more inventory ready to go, so it's not as stressful and I can at least keep them in stock. My battery died and I kind of lost my train of thought. Okay, so yeah, so it was just really stressful to not have enough in stock. Hopefully I am better prepared next year and this won't happen. I feel like I say that every year, but I don't know, it's always a struggle. So some initial thoughts for 2024. Like I mentioned, I won't be doing all of my big business planning until April, but I did set my word of the year, and I think what that is going to be is the word focus. I want to pick a few things in the business and life, honestly, pillars that I want to put more of my energy on and just kind of let go of all of the other things. I'll have a better idea of that when I really sit down to plan, but to start, what I really want to focus on is YouTube, because it's been really fun and bringing me a lot of joy. I want to focus on email, and I've been better about my email list, and whenever I do share emails, I do try to do like a personal note and stories and things like that. I've been following a lot of newsletters lately of creators who I really admire, and they do these weekly emails that I just really love to read, and it just feels like little snippets from their life alongside their business. So let me know if that sounds like something you'd want to see, because I really want to think about how I might do that in a way that works well for my business. Okay, so going into some numbers, 2023 ended up being my lowest year in Smini since going full time, and I don't know how much of that has to do with this like moving out of the pandemic spending where everyone was shopping online and retail was just really, really crazy, or some of the inflation stuff going on, or the fact that I took a lot of time off and wasn't as focused on selling and marketing. But numbers were down across the board, like on my website and in the local shops, but that seems to track with what is happening with retail overall, so who knows. I think come April I will analyze it more deeply and just think about ways that I can maybe come up with new revenue streams or do what I'm currently doing better. This year also ended up being my highest year for Wilderbean, which is my other business. I had no intentions of it being that way, but I ended up catering a few weddings this year, and I used to not focus on weddings at all. I would just be doing private, intimate dinners, but I had a few friends who asked if I would cater their weddings, and I just happened to do a few of them, and they ended up being really fun, and it really boosted my revenue for Wilderbean. So I actually ended up having my highest overall revenue year between both of my businesses, which was really cool, but also the highest spend year. And I think a lot of that had to do with, because I was catering weddings, I spent a lot more money on labor. I also spent more money on labor for Smini because I hired a friend to help out with some stuff. I also have been investing a lot more in my business this year than ever before, like, you know, my whole studio refresh, my brand refresh, and hiring the brand designer, and just buying more bigger ticket items and investing back in my business other than just materials and things like that. We'll see what happens in 2024. I am not anticipating Wilderbean to be as high, and I really want to work on seeing what I can do with Smini because it is my passion and I still love cooking, but doing Smini has just brought me so much joy and helped me navigate a lot of burnout from my past life as a chef, and so I really want to, you know, focus on it. Some more stats. In 2023, I ended up selling about 917 knit items, and that is lower than the years past, but still pretty good. 50% of that came from my website and markets, and then the other half came from selling at local shops. So pretty good, but it could be better. Patterns wise, I sold 3,800 patterns, and these are just digital downloads that I write up a pattern, I get them tested, I format everything really nicely, I do video tutorials, and then people buy the patterns and make the items. And that was also the lowest number of patterns I've sold in the last few years, but pretty close. And I only really released one new pattern last year, and I'm hoping to get back into more pattern writing and to nurture my knitting community. But patterns ended up being about 30% of my Smini revenue, and so that is actually a higher percentage than in years past. In years past, it was about 20% of my Smini revenue, so that just shows me that my product sales were down from before, but that's okay. We'll see what happens this year. And then the third revenue stream comes from affiliate marketing. 2023 was the first year that I earned any money from doing affiliate work, and I had never really explored it before, but Steel reached out and I became an affiliate partner with them. And last year I ended up making $1,564 from my partnership. It's not a ton of money, but pretty good considering I don't really put a ton of effort into that. But ultimately, I am a small business that wants to sell my own products, so we'll see how that balance goes. And I certainly don't want to turn off my customers or my community, so we'll see. I feel like I've been talking for so long now, but overall, I am still really happy with how 2023 went. I feel like it's a seed planting year and just a really big growth year in other ways other than financially. And I think ultimately, when you have a small business or just going through life, it's kind of figuring out what your personal priorities are and what actually matters to you. And for me, it's not money. Like, I want to make enough money to do what I want to do and not be financially strained or stressed. And I have achieved that. I think there's a lot of like that Enneagram 3 productivity achievement part of my personality that wants to see more growth and to keep pushing the envelope and seeing what I can accomplish, but I keep wrestling with this other side of me that ultimately just wants the freedom and the time to do things that I enjoy. Not saying that the business is not something I enjoy, but there are so many things outside of the business that I want to do with my time too. So we still have the rest of this winter season to go through in the business, so I don't want to put too much of my energy and time into thinking about the next season yet. I will be doing another planning trip for 2024 in April, so stay tuned for that. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here and for being part of my community, and I will talk to you soon.